Let's get this out of the way. SENRAN Kagura is a critic-proof franchise. It has a dedicated player base and they already know what they're getting. A competent brawler revolving around young high school girls looking to become ninjas, all while building trust and relationships with one another. The series started back on the Nintendo 3DS in 2011 and has received multiple sequels, spin-offs, an anime adaptation, and manga adaptations. The original 3DS was simplistic and made for quick play while on the go, as any good handheld game should. SENRAN Kagura Burst Re for the PlayStation 4 and PC is a remake of that original entry, but sadly, to a fault. Any fan of the SENRAN Kagura franchise should be made aware that this is a complete remake and as such would feel like a downgrade from current titles. This includes less characters, as the original 12 are still there with new characters coming in the form of DLC. A combat system that feels uninspired and lazy, level designs still feel like they belong on a handheld, and controls at times can feel sluggish. The game's story mostly revolves around the girls in their respective schools learning to become ninjas and growing as a team. If you enjoy ecchi storylines and sexually charged characters, SENRAN Kagura Burst Re story and humor may be up your alley. Now, it's not that the game isn't funny at times, but the generic character traits are so by the numbers that anybody who has ever watched a comedy ecchi anime such as Ranma Half or Tenchi Muyo have seen these traits used far more efficiently and in funnier situations.
秘伝忍法を使うためには秘伝忍法書という巻物が必要となる。お前たちがいつも肌身離さず持ち歩いているものだ。
あたいはスカートの中に隠してるよ。私は胸です。胸？気になるね。本当に隠してるのか確かめさせろ。カツメ、やめて。いいからじっとしてればすぐ終わるから。
Character models have been given an update to fit current gen hardware and they look fine for the most part. Enemies aren't given as much care as the main characters, and low res textures and the lack of physics on bustier models are evident and can even be off-putting when looked at up close. This only becomes noticeable thanks to a camera that has a hard time keeping up with the action, especially in smaller areas such as shopping squares and alleyways. It's also obvious that the game aimed for 30 frames per second rather than going for a locked 60. There are stutters in animations, and combat doesn't feel as fluid as it should be. The game supports both English and French subtitles, but only with Japanese vocals. This isn't a bad thing, if anything, it's a bright feature. The seiyus are giving their all and sound like they're enjoying their character. Each character's voice sounds full of energy and fulfills their personalities perfectly. Gameplay, on the other hand, is a different story. The combat mechanics feel like they've been updated to fit console controls over the 3DS's D-pad and lack of a joystick. But keep in mind, I played the game on the PS4 and not the PC. A new burst feature, which wasn't in the original, gives players a boost in attack and can even finish a large group of enemies in an instant. While another fighting mechanic called Frantic allows players to start a level without their selected character's clothing. This leaves them nearly defenseless, but raises their attack significantly. SENRAN Kagura Burst Re was made for players who either enjoy the franchise and missed the first game, such as myself, or for players who are looking to jump into the series. And while we're on the aspect of what fans of the series are looking for, it's important to note that the intimacy mode is not included as a feature in this game. This removal was announced by the publishers months before the game was released, and yes, the mode really is gone. Instead, the game has a dressing room and a diorama mode. In these modes, characters can pose and change outfits of characters, and the poses that can be picked are, well, let's just say very fitting for the franchise, and should keep some players entertained while they're trying to get the perfect shot. SENRAN Kagura Burst Re is a disappointing remake. In this current generation, players are looking for more in their re-releases, especially at a $40, $50, and even $80 asking price respectively. The move to HD is fine, but it lacks 4K or even HDR support. So PS4 Pro players won't even be able to take advantage of their consoles and their 4K televisions. Not to mention, the game is set to release a plethora of DLC, including 2 new playable stories, multiple outfits, and aforementioned characters just weeks after release, making the asking price even harder to swallow and raises the question of why an already niche title would charge so much if the idea was to attract new players. The game is fun in small bursts, no pun intended, and could have taken advantage of the franchise's history by adding more, not less. It's hard for me as a fan of the series to recommend this particular game. Instead, I suggest playing SENRAN KAGURA Shinobi Versus for those familiar with the franchise. But if you're new to the series and want a fun, quick, cheesy brawler, then Burst Re Newal will surely help you get into the franchise and possibly even turn you into a fan. SENRAN KAGURA Burst Re Newal is a 6.7 out of 10.
いや疲れたぞ